So, we love to just dive deep into really powerful writing, and you've brought us Psalm 55 today from the New Living Translation.
Yeah.
And wow, this one is intense.
It is.
It's like you're right there in someone's head at a moment of just huge crisis.
Yeah, and even before you even get into the actual words of it,
Right.
you have that little heading that tells you it's a song of David, and there's a note to the choir director to accompany it with stringed instruments.
Yeah.
So it's not like a private diary entry. It was
Yeah.
meant to be performed, probably in a public setting
Oh.
and with music, which just adds this whole other layer of emotional weight to it.
So it's like bringing you and me right into that moment with him thousands of years ago.
Exactly.
So what I'm really hoping we can uncover here is like the core of what David is going through,
Yeah.
emotionally, relationally, and what we can all learn from that about how to handle those times when we feel completely overwhelmed. And especially, I think about those gut-wrenching betrayals.
Yeah, definitely.
So he starts out just bam, right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Listen to my prayer, O God. Do not ignore my cry for help.
Just straight to the point.
You can just feel the desperation in those words, can't you?
Absolutely. It's like raw and visceral.
Right.
He's afraid his voice won't even be heard.
Right.
Like he's drowning in troubles and needs someone to throw him a lifeline.
Like right now.
Exactly. And then he tells you what's causing him all this anguish.
Yeah.
My enemies shout at me, making loud and wicked threats. They bring trouble on me and angrily hunt me down. So it's not just some vague sense of unease,
Right.
It's targeted and it's aggressive.
Have you ever felt that kind of pressure? Like people are actively coming after you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think most people have at some point in their lives,
Yeah.
that feeling of being ganged up on or like everything's against you.
And it just keeps coming.
Right. And what's so interesting is how that external pressure then turns inward for David. You see it in verses 4-7. My heart pounds in my chest. The terror of death assaults me. Fear and trembling overwhelm me, and I can't stop shaking. I mean, he's describing a full-blown panic attack.
Yeah, you can almost feel your own heart rate going up just reading it.
It's amazing how vividly he connects those outward threats with this very physical internal response.
It makes you think about how often we experience stress in our bodies too,
Totally.
like headaches or tense muscles.
It's a universal human thing, across time and cultures. And then there's that line that I think so many of us can relate to. Oh, that I had wings like a dove, then I would fly away and rest. I would fly far away to the quiet of the wilderness.
That feeling of just wanting to escape,
Oh, yeah.
get away from it all.
Have you ever felt that way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like when it all feels like too much, you just want to disappear.
Exactly.
Then there's that word interlude.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
What do you think that means in this context?
Well, most scholars think it was a pause for reflection. Maybe a moment for the musicians or singers to emphasize, a change in the tone or theme.
Like a musical break.
Exactly. It happens a lot in the songs.
Okay.
It's like a scene change in a play. And if you imagine this being performed live, it would have given the audience a chance to absorb what they just heard.
To kind of catch their breath.
Yeah.
And then picking up in verse 8, he's still talking about wanting to run away
Right.
from this wild storm of hatred, which is such a powerful image.
It is.
But then there's this shift in verse 9 where he calls on God to intervene.
Right. So it goes from just wanting to escape to actively seeking help.
Right.
He says, confuse them, Lord, and frustrate their plans. Like he wants his enemies to be thrown off balance.
To be stopped in their tracks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he connects that prayer to what he sees happening around him in the city.
Yeah, all the violence and conflict.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
About what's going on in our own world.
Yeah, absolutely. What are the storms of hatred that we're facing today,
Right.
Whether it's in our communities or even online.
And it gets even more interesting because then he points out this contrast within the city itself.
Yeah, he says, its walls are patrolled day and night against invaders, but the real danger is wickedness within the city. Everything is falling apart. Threats and cheating are rampant in the streets.
So it looks safe from the outside,
Right.
but inside it's full of corruption.
Exactly. It's like that saying, all that glitters is not gold.
It makes you think about those situations where, things might seem fine on the surface, but underneath there's all this turmoil.
Totally. And it raises the question of, where are we being fooled by appearances?
Where are we focusing on the wrong things?
Exactly.
And then starting verse 12, there's this really significant shift in who he's talking about.
Yeah, it gets really personal.
He says, it is not an enemy who taunts me. I could bear that. It is not my foes who so arrogantly insult me. I could have hidden from them. Instead, it is you, my equal, my companion, and close friend.
Oof, it just hits you in the gut.
The betrayal of someone you trust is just so much worse than any enemy.
It is, there's that violation of trust, that feeling of being stabbed in the back by someone who's supposed to be on your side.
And the way he describes this person,
Yeah.
my equal, my companion, and close friend,
It really emphasizes how deep that bond was.
and how much it hurts now that it's broken.
Have you ever experienced that kind of betrayal?
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
think most of us have at some point.
Yeah,
It's like a different kind of pain.
it is.
And then he talks about how they used to walk together to the house of God.
Oh, yeah, that detail about their shared spiritual life.
It just adds another layer to the betrayal.
It's like it wasn't just any friendship.
Yeah.
It was something sacred that's been defiled.
And then we get to these verses 15 through 18 where he's expressing this really intense anger,
Right.
almost vengeful, but at the same time, he's still clinging to his faith.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating mix of emotions.
He says, "Let death stalk my enemies. Let the grave swallow them alive, for evil makes its home within them."
Those are some pretty strong words.
But then he immediately turns back to God and says, "But I will call on God, and the Lord will rescue me."
It's like he's acknowledging the rage and pain,
Yeah.
but he's choosing to hold on to hope.
"Morning, noon, and night I cry out in my distress, and the Lord hears my voice. He ransoms me and keeps me safe from the battle waged against me."
It's that unwavering faith that sustains him.
Even when everything else feels like it's falling apart.
Right, and it makes you think, where do we find our own anchors when we're going through tough times?
What do we cling to when we feel like giving up?
Exactly.
And then in verses 19 through 21, he talks about God's power and justice.
Right, he says, God who has ruled forever will hew me and humble them. For my enemies refuse to change their ways, they do not fear God.
And then he goes back to describing this friend who betrayed him.
Yeah, and he uses these really vivid metaphors.
He says, "As for my companion, he betrayed his friends, he broke his promises. His words are as smooth as butter, but in his heart is war. His words are as soothing as lotion, but underneath are daggers."
It's like he's saying this guy is a master manipulator.
All smiles on the outside.
Yeah, but with a hidden agenda.
It's scary to think that people can be like that.
It is. It makes you wonder who you can really trust.
And then finally we get to the last two verses.
Yeah.
And there's this really powerful message of hope and trust in God.
He says, give your burdens to the Lord and he will take care of you. He will not permit the godly to slip and fall.
That's such a reassuring promise.
It is. It's
Yeah.
like he's saying you don't have to carry all this weight on your own.
And David ends by reaffirming his faith in God's justice.
Yeah, he says, but you, O God, will send the wicked down to the pit of destruction. Murderers and liars will die young, but I am trusting you to save me.
So even after all the pain and betrayal he's experienced,
Yeah.
he still believes that God is in control.
It's a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
So to kind of sum up what we've seen in Psalm 55
Yeah.
is this incredibly raw and honest journey
Yeah.
through the agony of betrayal,
The emotional term
the
road.
fear and anxiety.
And ultimately, that deep-seated trust in God.
And what's so amazing is that even though this song was written thousands of years ago,
Right.
the themes are so relevant to our lives today,
Absolutely.
regardless of your personal beliefs.
Yeah.
I think everyone can relate to the pain of being let down by someone you thought you could count on.
Right.
The feeling of being overwhelmed by stress and anxiety.
And that need to find something or someone to hold on to when everything else feels like it's crumbling.
Exactly.
It really makes you think about the people in your own life,
Yeah.
the ones you trust and the ones who might be letting you down.
And where do we turn when those closest to us cause us the most pain?
That's a really important question.
I think what David teaches us in this psalm is that it's okay to be honest about our feelings,
Mm.
to express the anger and hurt and even the desire for revenge.
But not to let those emotions consume us,
Right.
to ultimately find solace in something bigger than ourselves.
And maybe that act of expressing our vulnerability,
Yeah.
of crying out for help, is actually the first step towards finding some peace and healing.
I think you're right.
So to leave you with something to ponder,
Okay.
when was the last time you allowed yourself to be truly vulnerable with someone you trusted? And did it help you to heal or to move forward in some way?
It's something worth thinking about.